Am I the asshole for not pretending someone was a good guy just because he died? My 22 male uncle 48 male had a habit of leering at my younger cousins late teens, early 20s. They're his nieces. He always initiated hugs with them, they never initiated, and when hugging them his hand just always looked a bit too low on their backs. And once I saw him staring at his niece's cleavage. On Facebook, he was always posting about how much money he made on some deal. He worked in finance. He would also post pics of him with women from his workplace, all attractive, much younger than him. It's a finance job, not a modeling gig. It's obvious he purposely only hung out with the attractive women. A fake, he didn't do anything more than that. Just made girls feel like this older, overweight dude is fucking them, and he never seemed to do anything in his free time that didn't put him near some younger women, girls. It was always a girl that was 18 plus, by the way. He died a couple weeks ago from diabetes and the funeral was last week. The service went smooth and the eulogy, anyone who talked about him, mainly focused on his work accomplishments. Then people gathered around and had snacks, drinks. I was in a group of about 7 people, including some cousins, and an uncle and aunt. The uncle and aunt were talking about how selfless he was, telling a story about how he helped people he barely knew, like my cousin's 19-year-old friend, by helping her move furniture. I remember this. The girl had a housewarming and invited my cousin, her friend, and some friends over for. She told my cousin she could bring some friends. On the night of the party, my cousin told me about it, and said she wanted me to come because I was studying too hard lately. She invited me in front of some family, including the uncle who died. The uncle invites himself over C. My cousin said she could bring friends. He comes with us because no one felt like telling him no. At the party, he's the oldest one there. The host said she needed help to move furniture around and make things look better. My uncle's ears perk up and he says he has a professional interior designer friend, and he'd love to help her. He then asked, "How's Saturday? I'm supposed to see her then anyway. You'll love my friend. She's great." She said, "Yeah, that works." I got the feeling like he used his female friend to make the 19-year-old feel more comfortable about him coming over. Later, I heard that after the interior designer left, he stayed back to talk with her for a long while before she finally got the guts to say she had to go and couldn't talk to him anymore. After my living uncle and aunt tell the story about my deceased uncle helping someone he barely knew, I said, "Well, I think he was just trying to hit on her." Everyone gave me a shocked look, except my younger cousins. They looked like their day just brightened up because someone finally said it. Everyone else just walked away and didn't say anything. Later, my parents called me and said I was inappropriate. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. So many people don't speak ill of the dead, but when it's true, it's true. My mom died a while back and I watched so many people do the same as you describe, so selfless, so full of light. Yeah, no, my mom was a selfish bitch. She was a hardcore alcoholic who drove drunk and hurt people, she was abusive and only cared about herself, and she was found in a ditch on more than one occasion passed out drunk, but I digress. Not the asshole because you're realistic. Sorry for rant about my mom. Lol, and not the asshole. Good on you for outing the creepy uncle, and shame on the adults that turned a blind eye. Not the asshole. Are you sure he didn't do anything? Because it sounds like he put himself in situations with a lot of vulnerable young women. You should gently reach out to and show support for them. Not the asshole. That wasn't even an insulting thing to say. Maybe if you would have said, "Nah, he was just a creep trying to fuck," then you'd be the asshole. I don't agree with the "don't speak ill of the dead" thing. That's just a way to avoid hard conversations sometimes. Ick. I think this wasn't really the right time or place, but it clearly needed to be said. Did you ever speak up about it while he was alive? That would have been the right time. You are the asshole. Yes, your observations may have been factually correct. Publicly demolishing someone's character at their funeral is considered poor taste and you should have kept your mouth shut. The guy wasn't even buried yet. Everybody left because nobody wanted to be part of that conversation. It was the wrong location and time for such comments. Not standing up for your uncle or personally agree with his actions, but a certain level of decorum needs to be exercised at the person's funeral. Not the asshole. It's bullshit to have to lie or ignore facts in order to make someone seem like a decent human being. Info: did you call out any of this behavior when he was alive? There's a time and a place for these comments, and a funeral ain't it. I would say nah. Insensitive of you, probably. I get why they would be upset at you for saying that. But I also get why you want to give your perspective on that specific situation. You are the asshole if you think someone is a bad enough guy you can't keep yourself from shit-talking them at their wake, then you shouldn't have gone to their funeral. Also, to have bothered posting this, I'm sure you were scraping the bottom of the barrel of what you know about how bad a guy he was, and you've come up with slightly creepy older relative. Hope your nephews think you're a creep too. Not the asshole. When are we going to normalize calling out these lecherous fuckers? Yes, you are the asshole. Waiting until he died to talk shit. LMAO. Not the asshole had an uncle like this, and as a woman, who got leered at and was forced to give him a hug, call him like you see him. Not the asshole. It's complicated because you were at his wake, and whilst many of your family didn't like him, there were some there who clearly did. To be honest, the worst thing is, as far as I can tell, no one stood up to him or told him off for his behavior whilst he was alive. I'm going to say you are the asshole. Yeah, he sounds like a jerk and you can speak ill of the dead whenever, but grow enough decorum to learn not to do that at their actual funeral. You are the asshole. A funeral isn't the place to say this. Many people may not like this dude, but I assure you, someone out there probably respected, loved him. If you felt so harshly about him, why show up to his funeral? You could have held your tongue. There is a place and time for everything, and this is not it. You are the asshole. There's a time for everything. This wasn't the time. I had a friend who called out her mom's cousin for sexually abusing her mom as a child at my friend's bat mitzvah reception. He had only been invited to keep the peace as he was in the congregation, and then got drunk at the reception and started trying to hug her mom and her and reminisce about good old times. The 13-year-old newly adult star of the show decided to shut that shit down by making a toast to all the elderly relatives who enabled him and ignored her mom telling them about cousins' abuse as a child, followed by renouncing Judaism for their hypocrisy. The reason the adults had swept the abuse under the rug was to prevent a rift in the community. Not the asshole. Just because someone died, doesn't make them a good person. A good example would be Apollo Legend. He committed suicide, which is tragic, and I feel bad for the family, but it doesn't change the fact the guy was a major asshole during his time on YouTube. Not the asshole. Also gross. The fact that they allowed him to openly leer at their kids is not a good sign. You are the asshole. It's a fucking funeral, just keep your accusations which you have zero proof for out of a funeral. People are grieving. If you can't support your family for one day, you shouldn't have went. It was a dick move. Not the asshole. You may have helped your younger cousins deal with trauma by speaking out. Silence only protects abusers. You are the asshole. You don't have to pretend he's a good guy, but FFS, you turned him into a creep after admitting to us you actually don't know he's done anything more than less than gasp look at women. No wonder they looked at you funny, they didn't see any of what you think you saw. You looked at his actions from your very, admittedly, narrow lens, and then upon his death, while the family is grieving, decide that's the best time to start throwing a random and unsubstantiated opinion around? Not the asshole. Everyone loves you when you are dead. Not the asshole. I don't buy into that don't speak ill of the dead stuff. If they were an ass, they were an ass. Not the asshole. You probably should have spoken up about it while he was alive though. Not the asshole. I worked with a guy for years that no one liked and he was an asshole. He would even tell people he knew he was an asshole and he didn't care. When people talk about him I still say he was an asshole and they act weird like don't talk about him like that. Same people called him an asshole when he was alive. I paid my respects to his family but it's not like I miss him. Not the asshole. That's not speaking all if the dead. It's who your uncle was. He didn't seem ashamed of it, so I don't see why the rest of the family would see that as a bad thing. No assholes here bordering on YTA. You probably said the truth but I understand why people might take offense to this at the very funeral. Especially since they might not have seen it that way or hadn't observed the situation that closely. There's a time and a place and this wasn't it, Chief. You are the asshole. You do realize that your entire basis for this uncle of yours being a pig is pure speculation? Like, zero evidence other than things you believe you observed. The comment was an asshole comment regardless of your true feelings. You can let people try to remember someone happily. You're selfish and an awe. No assholes here. The op didn't say anything overly harsh. He didn't attack anyone there. He really didn't even attack the dead uncle. No one was excoriated. The comment doesn't rise to the "don't trash the corpse at the funeral" level. Not asshole behavior. The people who remember him fondly have fond, if incomplete, memories of their family member. They didn't say anything at the OP's comments, they didn't cause a scene, they haven't called up the OP threatening to disown him, they just walked away. That's also not asshole behavior. Not the asshole. Have you read Speaker of the Dead by Ordonio Scott Card? The speaker gives a funeral speech, for people speaking of both sides of a person, good and bad. I like that idea. Not the asshole. People who choose to live in fantasy worlds about their relatives should accept that others will not placate the fantasy. Not the asshole. If you don't want people to talk shot about you at your funeral, then don't live a shoddy life where you do shoddy creepy things. Not the asshole. Don't speak ill of the death is really outdated. People are what they are. Some people are good, some are bad. To glorify someone's life cause they died is just a hypocrite move. If you don't speak about them in a positive light while they are alive. Don't start when they died. Don't speak ill of the dead shouldn't apply to people who literally creep on their fucking grandchildren, let alone creeping on anyone. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. The best part of this is that you validated your younger cousins. Truly. Thanks for doing that. NTA. My biggest pet peeve is that death equals all bad things are gone. Not the asshole. IDK. Why people defend creeps, even if they're related. My Mill defends her creepy brother who sounds just like your uncle. I will never trust her alone with my child for that reason. I can't understand the thought process of defending and loving a person like that. I see this quote pop up often when someone controversial dies. Lately it was Rush Limbaugh, and I kind of love it. I've never wished a man dead, but I have read some obituaries with great pleasure. Basically, I take it to mean being a shitty person doesn't mean you deserve to die, and I wouldn't wish for that, but I'm also not going to pretend you were some amazing holy figure that you weren't just because you've died. If you led a horrible life and made things worse for the people around you, I'm not really going to be super upset to hear of your passing, and I personally find it kind of gross and disingenuous when people act like that. Not the asshole. People always say you shouldn't talk ill of the dead, they can't defend themselves. This isn't true. Their actions in life speak volumes on their character and what kind of person they were. Not the asshole, and I think your younger cousin's reactions show that. Not the asshole. When my uncle dies, I don't plan on attending his funeral. And if I do, I won't sugarcoat what he did to my cousins and how much of a creep he was to me even in the brief times I had to interact with him. People are complicated, sure, but that doesn't mean people need to tiptoe around the hard truth as my family chose to do. Not the asshole. You didn't speak ill of him, you just spoke the truth. Dying don't turn ya into a saint. Not the asshole. Although next time I'd bite my tongue at the actual funeral. Or probably just not go. It's just the one place and time you shouldn't bring something like that up. And not out of respect for the dead, out of respect for anybody that loved this guy. They are at their peak in grief, don't complicate it. Not the asshole, though it is not uncommon for financial companies to hire attractive women exclusively. Source: worked in finance. Not the asshole. Dead perv is still a perv. Not the asshole. Don't want to be spoken ill of after you're dead, don't be the kind of person people want to speak ill of. Not the asshole. May he rest in piss. Not the asshole. Don't speak all of the dead, only gets said by people who know the dead were a holes.